Hello there, and welcome everyone to All Knicked Up for February 22nd, 2023. We have a jam-packed show for you as we always do. Of course, I'll bring in Craig and Ty in a second. Uh, First, I just want to say really quickly, I want to thank everybody for your support, for watching the show, interacting with us in the Facebook group. If you do that there, we appreciate all the love and support that we've gotten from everybody. So thank you very much for that. Uh, and we have a good show planned for you. We're going to talk about a bunch of different topics, a host of different things, uh, all NBA related. Don't worry, not topics outside the NBA. We're going to talk about NBA stuff, mostly the Knicks, but we're going to also talk about some stuff that happened in the NBA in the first half of the season. And then we'll also talk a little bit about the All-Star game and All-Star weekend. We'll get into a little bit of that information. So let me bring in my partners in crime. Let's bring in Craig and Ty. What's up, brothers? How are you?
Yo, what's up? What's up?
Hello, everybody.
Yo, I'm okay. I'm good. It's it's Wednesday, so we get to do this every Wednesday, which is one of probably the most fun part of my day since work has been really rough lately. So this is kind of my time where I could just geek out and be a normal person for a couple of hours. So of course we're going to get into all the stuff I talked about before I brought you guys on. I'm sure you're probably looking, but and listening, but we'll definitely get into all of the information. But first, how's everybody? Craig, how are you?
This is Theraflu, so you know how I'm doing.
Oh wow!
Oh, what
man.
the hell, man! Telling you, it's when you have kids, you get all these just illnesses and viruses and
outbreak monkeys. Outbreak monkeys. That's all they are.
True, man.
Mm-hmm.
Are they sick?
No, just me and my wife.
Wow.
So they were the carriers, probably. You guys just
patient zeros.
That's what happened.
Yeah. Oh. Other than that, I am fine. I have no complaints.
Well, I'm glad you're toughing it out. Then did not know you were sick, but glad you're toughing it out to be on the show with us tonight.
I can't miss two in a row.
It's see, that's dedication, folks. That's what we like.
That's what we do
right there. That's commitment. So thank you, of course, for staying on. I don't know if you guys noticed last week that this was there too, Craig. I just changed it for you. If you see your name on the screen, there's a little headline area underneath now. So I changed that for you. That's where you put in whether you have your handle for your screen name you want to put for Twitter, Facebook. You want to put a little headline there, a little funny name about yourself. You can do that too. I don't care. Gotcha. That's what that area is for, guys. So that's a little upgrade that StreamYard made. And that's just wanted to explain that if you're looking at that being like, why is there? Well, that's what that is.
No more aliases. No more aliases.
Right, no more. So, all right, Ty, what about you, man? How are you? What's going on? Anything new?
Making the dream work. That's all they say. Keep grinding and minding. That's all you can do.
Yeah. Any vacations? Any you guys going on vacations?
Yeah, I got a little something coming up to marinate on this 50 body. You know how it is.
That's true. Yes.
Got to melt some of the chocolate off somewhere. You know, get on a little heating lamp.
Oh, I wish I was. I'm probably not going anywhere. Maybe in April. I might be going somewhere in April, but we'll see how that works out.
You got to do the thing. You got to do the thing, man.
Yeah, if you work hard, you should play hard too. So get the opportunity to do that. Got to decompress.
No, so. No, you're speaking a word there.
All right. So since last we met, was NBA All-Star Weekend, right? NBA All-Star Weekend just passed. Yeah. And so we have a good representation here of kind of three age ranges. Ty, you and I are close in the same range pretty much. But Craig, you're a little bit younger than us, so you can kind of lend a different perspective on the All-Star game. So really quickly, what do you remember about the All-Star game from when you were growing up watching the NBA? And did you like it then? Let me start with that. Did you like the All-Star game back then?
I loved it, to be honest, because, the one thing that sticks out to me the most is hearing Doug Collins tell a story about, I believe it may have been the 2001 All-Star game. He was doing that. He was doing it in D.C. I believe that was the one he was doing. He was telling Bob, it was Bob Costas. I don't know who it was, but he was telling someone he was doing a game with that he remembers coaching, I guess, the All-Star game in Cleveland. right? And East was down big by like 25 or something like that. Doug Collins told Mike, "Hey, no, the winning team gets like an extra 50 or 100K or some crazy number like that." Next thing he knew, East came out, they won by like 25 or something like that.
Yeah.
So that is the competitive nature, even if driven by money, that I miss when it comes to the All Star game. Um, that 98, 2001, and one in DC. I believe there was one a couple of years ago where it was actually competitive. Maybe a few years ago, it was actually still competitive in the fourth quarter. I cannot, it's escaping me where it was, but I know it was at least a handful of years ago. Um, Speaking or thinking of the All Star game this year or All Star weekend, the only one thing that comes to mind. It was I'm not called the All Star game, I'm called All Star Lane. Right? There was nothing there that intrigued me at all. Once Quentin Grimes, whatever team he was on, and they were knocked out, I checked out. Right?
Mhm.
Once Randall only had 13 points, a 3-point shooting contest, I checked out. Once Sims was doing whatever he was doing, even though it was out of his world, you know, I checked out. I probably watched all of 10 minutes of the actual game. Uh, it's not what I remember at all.
Right.
And you're turning fans off with, you know, gimmicks or whatever the case may be. But growing up, the All Star game was the thing. It was the weekend. I remember the All Star game was in Philadelphia. It was the whole thing was just crazy. Everybody was taking off for work. There was a lot of arrests and nonsense going on, but you remember it being like a big deal, right? And now it's just kind of like you're watching it from afar, and you're just kind of like it doesn't carry the same weight that it used to, and that's a problem that the NBA's got to figure out.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you first because, like I said, Ty and I are kind of in the same age group. I think we're 4 years apart, so we're kind of in the same age group. So it's for us to say something, we can reflect a little bit further back on the All Star game than you can. And since you're younger and are closer to the current iteration, like I wanted to get your take first before we spoke on it.
I don't recognize it, to be honest.
That's kind of the thing that I wanted to bring up. I feel like for an all-star weekend, it lacks all-stars. And I'm not talking about in the game. Of course, in the game, guys play. But the weekend itself, like the main stars don't take part of those things anymore. Like, you don't really see, I guess, the three-point shootout still. The three-point shootout, the guys, like Steph Curry will still go if he's healthy. And like guys will still go and do that. But the slam dunk contest, I mean, that used to be the highlight. That's why it's last. Right, that's why it's always the last event because it's what you close with. And I mean, hey, let's be honest. Mac McClung is only 6'2", and he won this year. And the stuff he did was freaking fantastic. Like he was fantastic. But I mean, he wasn't even in the NBA last week. Like he was in the G League. He played in the G with the rookie challenge, whatever. He played on the G League team with the G League team. So, like, it was very strange watching him then wear a Sixers jersey. So, I guess it's a win for Philly, Craig. I guess you could be happy. I know you don't like the Sixers, but he technically isn't a Sixer. Like, I don't even look at him as being a Sixer. He just kind of wore the jersey like, hey, I'm here. But, I mean, we've been watching him for years on YouTube do dunks. Like, he's known for it. So, it's really seemed like the NBA is like, oh, crap, this field sucks. We need to get this guy in there. And all that would be solved if LeBron, John Morant, the stars went in this thing and just, you don't have to do it every year. But I mean, he's never done it. LeBron James has never done it. No, Zion, obviously, he'd probably, break a toenail and be out for a month. But Zion, with the way he dunks, him in that contest would be ridiculous, right? Like, it'd be crazy. I think we talked about this the other day. I said, I think Obi is the last lottery pick, the most, or like, that I can think of. The last, I guess, lottery pick that's been in the contest. Am I wrong with that? Thinking that has there been another one? I don't think so.
I don't think so. Not in recent history. I think I dated back to
Levine.
What's his name?
Zach Levine.
No.
Aaron Gordon.
No.
Well, Aaron Gordon was a lottery pick, so that would work.
Aaron Gordon would work. That's true.
Yeah.
What's the guy who jumped over the Kia? What's his name?
Blake Griffin.
Blake Griffin was like the main top-notch guy when you think about it. I think he was picked number 2 or whatever he was, or number 1 in the league in the draft. He was one of the last star quality guys that come out, and there was a face of a franchise. Aaron Gordon was playing in Orlando. It's just Mickey Mouse. Nobody really cared about Orlando like that. So, he was playing Blake Griffin was playing for the Clippers, and at the time, the up-and-coming Clippers. He had the target on his back as that rookie phenomenon that was coming out, physically gifted. But yeah, Obi's the last of what is becoming a real dying breed of people willing to not only be a high lottery pick, but willing to put the spotlight on them, and be subjected to criticism. It definitely it's about shrinkage. I've always said this is about wearing a Speedo, getting out of the pool. Might be a cold winter's night. These guys are a little bit afraid, to step into the front, into the front, and show people what they got, and for fear of maybe being a Giphy on the internet, or a bad joke, a crying Jordan meme. I don't know if that's what they fear so much of becoming a laughing stock, but I don't know. I'm not from this generation. This generation to me is just a very weird generation. No offense to you guys, but this is a pack of weirdos, because I've never seen people, literally. Not trying to insult, but it's like everybody takes an L. James Todd Smith takes L's. I always say that. LL Cool J, he has 2 L's in his moniker. Everybody takes an L, and it's okay, especially when you're performing at such a high level. I think when you look at a guy like the Sims, from the Knicks, he basically tweeted out a picture like, I'm fine. I'm not traumatized because I lost the contest. I'm going to be okay. Yeah, I would be okay too if I'm making a couple $1 million and playing a sport I love. What do you have to lose by actually performing on this stage? You would just think out of competition that it would just be fun to enjoy yourself and let loose and not take yourself so serious. And we're seeing them take exhibition parts serious. Like, oh God, I can't fail at that, but they don't mind making the product look like a failed product out on the floor. Allowing layup lines, no competitive edge. Nobody's trying to win the game. It's just a whole easy pass lane. I always liken back. We're talking about errors of watching the All-Star game and what it meant to a person like Craig's age. And for me, the one that always sticks out in my mind, and this kind of drives home how lost this generation is with basketball. I think it was 1991. Magic Johnson gets diagnosed with HIV. The whole world goes on a complete tear. Where I'm a huge Magic fan. I always make that known. Everybody's waiting for Magic to die and shrivel up in front of them on camera. That was the fear. This unknown, disease that had taken so many lives. And we fast forward, Magic was, out of the league at the time, basically. Guys were afraid to play against him. Didn't know if the sweat would transfer HIV, et cetera, what he's going to do when he has a cut, blah, blah, blah. We fast forward, he's allowed to play in the All-Star game in Orlando. And I remember that because I'm really going to date myself. I have it on VHS somewhere. That's why I was taping that game, because I'm like, this is probably the last time I'm going to see what was my favorite player at the time. Probably ever play a basketball game. Thank God for the Olympics, but I'm just saying that this was where we were in that era of the unknown with the disease. And I strictly remember Magic was the MVP of that All-Star, which was not shocking. But I remember how competitive the guys were. Out of fear of not knowing whether sweat transfers or blood transfers or incidental contact, you never knew what was going to come about it because we weren't knowledgeable about the then deadly disease. That game was so competitive. Isaiah went out and guarded Magic. They weren't taking it light on him. And it's like, to know that guys knew that their lives could potentially be harmed or changed, or, their health could be dramatically changed, they still competed in the game because competition still took over at the end of the game. And you had 2 guys, and the one thing that's been missing to me, period, from the All-Star games, you don't have that point guard. And if nobody understands that, I don't know what to tell you. The point guards were always the guys that got the whole All-Star game going, whether it was the Isaiah Thomases or the Magic Johnson types. They were like, oh, well, this is what we're going out here and do. We're going to run this and try to bust these guys and put on a show. You don't have the showmen no more in the game. You have a lot of selfish, self-drawn people that are worried about what they look like, their stats, not worrying about playing a team concept. You know, it's a very me attitude, which is reflective of the world anyway. But it's just more so. That's why we're seeing less competitive teams also, because no one's driving home the bus anymore. As great as LeBron is, he's never driving home the bus of competition. He will say that he's a bad whatever, you know, but you never see him really go out and put his imprint on a team like, hey, look, come here. We're coming out to bust these guys. And if they want to play around, we're going to bust them even worse. You don't see that. You don't see that kind of leadership from any of the guys that are adorning the court. So I like to that you have Magic, who's definitely, you know, sick or diagnosed with an illness, and yet guys were still competitive. But we have guys now that are like, nah, that's all right, Chief. Go in the lane, do whatever you want, shoot all the threes.
It's too much. Yeah, it kind of goes back to the friendship aspect that's in the NBA now. It's another example. It's just another layer of that where, you know, and guys don't want to get hurt, things like that. Like you could tell they're not playing basketball when in the All-Star game. I only watched maybe 2 minutes of it, and I just couldn't. I'm like, this is just, it's not basketball. I'm not watching basketball. So I turned it off. I didn't watch it. Again, I watched the 3-point shootout. And well, I caught the middle. No, I did. I caught the whole 3-point shootout. And then I watched the slam dunk contest. The funny thing is, Trey Murphy is more known for his shooting. And he was in the dunk contest. Yeah. Like Trey Murphy was drafted because he was a good 3-point shooter. I remember going into the draft talking about him because we were like, oh, he'd be a good guy to stretch the floor. So Trey Murphy is known more for that, and then I see him with the dunk contest. It reminded me when Allen Houston was in the dunk contest. Like there were guys I remember who were known for shooting, and then they would show up in the dunk contest. But even a guy like Allen Houston, who was an all-star in this league, like he was a two or three-time all-star in the NBA. Mm-hmm. Guys like that don't do it anymore. Don't do the dunk contest. It's very rare that you get somebody who has. It seems like it's become a proving ground for young players. Like, oh, they're not playing much, so we'll throw them a bow or throw them in the dunk contest. Yeah, they can make a name for themselves there. And it's just kind of like, I don't know. For a while there, I thought the creativity was lacking, but I mean, McClung did some pretty nice looking dunks.
Yeah, no, he did.
You know, and Sims tried some funny dunks. I mean, it's whatever. Like they were odd, but because he's so tall, like it doesn't have the same impact. Right? Like I thought it was cool with the note thing. Like I thought the concept of it was cool to put your hand and pull out the letter or whatever, and then he took off the net. But I mean,
and the glue got stuck to the envelope, and he's like, his fingers to open it.
And he's just too big though. Like some guy when you're that size, you got to do things. That's why I said
an assistant too. I think he needed to have someone toss him the ball because what's been great about Sims is that elevation and then the finish, not necessarily his creativity because he's not a creative person off the bounce. You know, he needed to have someone who can lob him some. Could you imagine watching him fly off a lob pass and getting that dunk and being?
Well, maybe they should have two iterations of the slam dunk of the contest, right? You can decide whether you want to be the solo dunker or you have like an in-game dunk simulation where you like you
add some. They had one time where you could add someone in.
Like you start.
I mean, you can still
start
have
from the other end of the court and then kind of like you're running the fast break. Maybe bring 2 people in plus the dunker back and forth, and then you just throw. I mean, it's just something to. I don't know.
You're right. No, this is what the NBA needs to be doing. What we're doing here is what the NBA needs to be doing. Because I used to love All-Star Weekend. I used to think it was fantastic. And now I really don't watch any All-Star games in any of the 4 major sports. I don't enjoy any of them. Baseball has at least the winner gets the home field for the World Series, which I think is silly, but at least it's something, right? They give you something for actually participating. There's something there for these guys to play for. Maybe they need to do something like that in the NBA. I have no idea what can be done. But all I know is, and again, it could be that I'm old now and I just don't, I can't connect to this version of the All-Star game. But it's just not fun for me. And it's supposed to be an exhibition of the game. And I mean, do they still do? I don't even know this. Do they still do the 4 quarters where every quarter is its own thing?
Yeah, I don't like that at all.
Yeah, they still do something like that, or
they do.
play
Yeah,
for parity or something. Whoever
that's
wins after the 4 quarters.
that makes no sense to me. Just play
I
the
agree.
game.
Just play the damn game.
Like
Like,
the
what is
game.
that?
I think what it is it's become entertaining, but more it's about. I want to make sure I parse my words carefully here. It's it's entertaining, but it's only entertaining people's uh not personalities, their vanity, right? Does that
Mm.
make sense? You're entertaining a person's vanity as opposed to entertaining the fans, and
I get where you're
that
coming
and I think that's what's destroying it. It's about the people and not about the fans who want to go and see. Oh my God, look at D Wade and look at Gabrielle Flabber, whatever her name is, and all these other people
from.
in this show and that show and this performance and this dress code. I mean, and this fashion statement and like it's become an award show mixed together with a hip hop thing
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then it's just like it's just this weird mixture of things that don't equate to making the fans happy. And when I just want to see a competitive game, and you're kind of pushing out people who just want to watch basketball. You're isolating them, and that's not fair to people who want to watch a competitive at least for the last 12 minutes. You know what I
Right.
mean?
It's yeah. I mean,
It's
it's always been an exhibition, right? It's always
yeah,
been the
always.
guys. Obviously, they never don't play as hard of defense that you play in a regular
Mhm.
season game or in a playoff game, and the guys are a little bit more lax, and it's about putting on a show for the fans. All that stuff has always been part of the game, but now it's just like that's all there is. There's nothing else,
Yeah,
and it just sucks. Like it's a terrible thing to see happen because like I feel like the younger generation is getting cheated
I don't think they
out of
care,
it.
to be honest. I don't think
But
they
I
care.
mean, but the question is, do you think they would care if Zion was in the dunk contest and John Morant was in the dunk contest? Like they would
I,
care,
I think they would care in that regard, but I don't know if they would care about
right?
the game of in and of itself. Like I don't think they would care about that, right? Because they've already been taught, right? If you were born 10 years ago, if you're born in 2015, right? You have no idea what you were missing because the last competitive All Star game was 5 years ago. You were only five. You probably started watching basketball until 8 or 9 or 10. Even
hmm
if you were born 15 years ago,
hmm
you're coming in on the end of what was supposed. So they're already conditioned to think that this is okay, and it's
yeah,
just not. We sound like the old fogies here, but it's a reality that no one gives a crap about the game anymore.
We are the old fogies.
yeah.
Just to be honest.
Yeah, we are. We are definitely.
It's
Yeah,
just frustrating. It's
I agree.
frustrating.
I agree with what you're saying, Craig, in a lot of ways because it's really about. It's. I find people always getting back into the whole argument about Jordan versus LeBron and all that, et cetera. Um, the reason, and I told people I'm not going to argue about it because you're arguing about people who didn't see what you saw. So it's kind of hard. I mean, you might get some people that are in your age group or near your age group who may have seen both players play. But, come on, if you're coming along in the last 15 years of life and, you're only 25, there's a greater chance that you grew up watching only ever LeBron and Jordan on snippets or any other of the supposed taxi drivers that were playing in the 80s and the 90s that claim that's how you're going to presume that everyone was. And today's game is how it is, So it's kind of hard to have the argument because your eyes only tell you what you've seen. They won't tell you what someone else has seen. So it's kind of very hard to have that debate. And once again, if the kids have been seeing this type of basketball, this type of all-star game, they didn't see the times when they got very competitive or as recent as the Iverson and Marbury all-star game, which I thought was probably the best one I've seen in a very long time. But that's what, over 20, was that 90, 20, 20.
I think that was 2001, 2000,
Which,
2001.
so we're
Maybe
talking
yeah.
22 years ago, which I'm remembering it, because that's probably the last great one I've seen in 20 something years. So these kids have been seeing 20 something years of bad all-star games, and to be honest, because it's not great. I mean, you're launching threes and doing dunks, so they think that's all it is.
Yeah. So I don't know what can be done for the All-Star game, but
Self introspection by the
yeah,
player and the people who run the league because
they Yeah, I agree with you. They have to incentivize it somehow to get the stars to do these competitions,
Crazy.
get the fans to come watch, and then go back to the old formula and play a normal basketball game. 4 quarters, let it go. Guys will get competitive as the game goes on, you hope. And yeah, let's just be, let's be
Give it
what it
all
was.
like an All-Star Game championship. I know that sounds silly, right? But if you win the Eastern All-Star, it's just not you win, right? If you win Eastern Conference, Western Conference, I know it sounds naive and really weird, but hey, if you win, you get the mid-season championship. It's not as much. I mean, it's I don't know. I'm just trying to think outside the box here to just give them some incentive to say, hey, I may not have won an NBA championship, but I won in midseason. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe it's to give them rings, right? Like
There you go. Or a
maybe the
championship
idea
belt
is
or
to
something. Something
yeah,
silly.
like give them a ring
They won't care.
for that. And it's obviously not an NBA championship, but it's still a ring.
They
I
don't
don't
care.
know.
They don't care.
Just something like that. But let's
You-
move past this All-Star.
Yeah, I'm already over
Yeah,
it.
let's
I'm
go.
over it.
Yeah,
Let's hope the NBA changes it and goes forward. Let's focus back to the Knicks really quickly. And I said we're going to do this last week, so we're going to do it. We're going to play the win-loss game. All right, there are 22 games left. So this is how we're going to do it. I'm going to go around the horn.
Mm-hmm.
I will ask Craig. I'll start with you. I'll ask you first, Ty, and then I'll do the third team in the list. There's 22 games, so there'll be one extra. So Craig, you'll have the last one. So I will do that. I will start. We'll start now, and I will start with Friday is our first game back. That was a long break for the Knicks. Anyway,
Yeah.
they are playing the Washington Wizards in Washington. Craig, what do you say? Win or loss?
Loss.
Okay. Ty, at New Orleans. I mean, home against New Orleans.
Home against New Orleans. I'm gonna give an L on that. It's just we play at home. I just can't trust it.
Then it's home to Boston. I'm gonna say win for me.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Craig. Home against Brooklyn.
Ooh, loss.
Okay.
I think they'll be angry.
At Miami. Ty.
I'm saying an L on that one.
I keep getting Boston. I have at Boston now. So this one I will give an L. We're not so guys, so far we have them going 1-5 out of the gate. Go ahead. Craig, home against Charlotte.
Win.
All right. Ty at Sacramento. Now they're going to the West Coast trip.
Ooh.
At Sacramento.
Ooh, that's an LL, I believe.
Hey. Me at the Clippers. I'm gonna give them a win.
Ooh.
Ooh.
Craig at the Lakers.
Loss.
Sadly enough.
Ty at Portland.
Win.
All right. Me at home against Denver. That's an L because I think Denver's going to want payback. Craig home against the Timberwolves, Minnesota.
Win.
Ty, you get this one again at Miami.
I'm gonna have to go another L.
Jesus. I get at Orlando. That's a win. Home against Houston, Craig.
Win.
Okay, you get Miami again. Ty home against the Heat.
That'll be a win at home.
All right, we have him a 3-game win streak. I have at Cleveland. I'm gonna give them a win because they've been beating Cleveland all year. Craig, you get Washington again at home.
Win.
Ty at Indiana.
Win. I'm gonna give him a win on that one.
Me at New Orleans. I'm gonna give him an L because that's in New Orleans, so I'm gonna give him an L. And then Craig, we finish up at home against the Pacers.
Oh. I'm assuming this has playoff implications, so I'm just gonna go just say win.
All right. So out of the 22, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So we have them going 12 and 10 to end the season.
Sounds
Which,
all right.
yeah, it does sound about right, which would put them at 45 and 37, which is kind of. I remember I said that if it breaks right, I think they'd win 45 games. That
Yeah.
would be the 45. So, all right. I think it's weird how we did it, though. Like, we had them at the end of the year, we have them going 1, 2, 3, 4, a 6-game win streak, and then a loss, and then the win against the Pacers at home. So,
Well, this is always predicated on which Knicks team is going to show up.
well, of course.
I mean, to me, all the teams that we named, I would think we're capable of beating like at least 90% of them. When you look at who that team is compared to what we have, it's just I trust this team to be a little bit above a 500 team. I don't trust them to be a juggernaut, although they've shown sometimes that they can go on some decent streaks. But I never bought that 8-game where we was on an 8-game winning streak. I never bought it because there were too many factors that contributed to why that streak was able to maintain. But I don't know, because our home record should say that we should win throughout the whole home stretch. Like every home game we should win. But who believes that? Who's buying that? Who's buying that car?
It's true, yeah. I mean, the home games they have are. I mean, Boston's tough, obviously, but they should beat the Pelicans. They should beat the Nets. They should beat Charlotte. Denver's tough, but they should beat Minnesota. They should beat Houston.
Mm-hmm.
They should beat Washington. They should beat the Pacers. I mean, yeah. I mean, their home schedule during the rest of the year is kind of. I don't want to say easy, but winnable. I'll say that's winnable. Because the Knicks, nothing's easy for the Knicks.
No.
We know that. I think I said last time, the point differential. I'll go back and check it really quickly, but the point differential on the season for them is only 2 points. So they're only a +2 on this 2.3, but who cares about the decimal? It's 2. So they're only really +2 on the season with point differential, which means their games are close, and we know that. We've been in a lot of close games. It started out the beginning of the season started out that way. We went to overtime against Memphis. And that's kind of held form all year. So it has been interesting. But yeah, we have them at 12 and 10 down the stretch. So it's going to be let's see if that holds up. Let's see. We're going to check. We'll check back and see if that holds up at the end of the year. So if they do finish it at 45 and 37, that should get them in a top 6, I would assume.
I think there are 6. I think with the addition of Josh Hart and expecting Mitch to come back, I think the Knicks, if the Knicks don't get the 6th seed, I think it's an unsuccessful season, to be very honest, given that you've added in a piece that you believe you need, and he's been productive for us. Although I said I'd hold out until he's on the scouting report for the Knicks. I don't know if this is viable. He's averaging, I think, over 17 points over the last several games, and he's averaged 9 points his career. That's a heck of a bump. I don't know if that you can maintain that kind of scoring integrity playing here. I don't know. They should be a 6 seed. I mean, why would they not be a 6 seed? This seems like what they've been gearing up to get is the 6 seed all year. So
it's crazy. I mean, yeah, he's shooting 62% since becoming a Knick. He's shooting 64% from 3 since becoming a Knick.
That's not sustainable. I mean, great if it is. I just think that no one is looking for Josh Hart on the scouting report yet, especially for this team.
Right.
Once you, I mean, I think the word is out. Once you can how you can take Julius out of the game. You know how you can hinder Brunson. So these open looks that he's getting is just because teams are not familiar with him and how he's being. I don't know if Tom utilizes anybody in his offense, but I'm just saying how he's being utilized. Freestyling, I think teams are going to eventually zero in on what he does great and start to eliminate or try to take that away from him. He's not going to get those open threes all the time.
Yeah, I agree. It's going to be interesting to see how it unfolds with him going forward. That's probably the biggest difference that we've had since the trade. He's been just so damn fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess we'll see exactly how it plays out as the season goes on. So Craig, you weren't on the last show, but me and Ty kind of started this conversation, because this was kind of being talked about. So, do you think, with his recent struggles and how he's looked, and how good Hart has played, do you think the Knicks should start Hart and bench RJ Barrett, bring him off the bench?
No, I don't think it would even cross Tibbs' mind to do that, just from an optic standpoint, and just he still is a guy that averages 19.7 points a game. It can kind of, you know, when he's feeling right, get anywhere he wants to on the floor for the most part. Sometimes, so I don't. I would. That thought has never crossed my mind. I don't think it ever crossed Tibbs' mind. And for any of the fans out there that think it should happen or even suggested, I hate to question people's intelligence, but
I question him.
yeah, but I might.
You can. It's fair. You
If
can.
that's the case, you bench Grimes. I mean, you would bench Grimes then because Grimes isn't doing essentially what he is supposed to be doing. Not that he's not a good player, but I'm just saying he's not doing what he should
Except
be doing.
in the rookie challenge, right? Except
Yeah.
in the
Except for that. That was amazing. That's what I'm saying. Like that's so I don't know. No, I wouldn't even think twice about it. I don't think it's going to happen. You need someone like Hart off the bench because you saw one game he played a lot of minutes down the stretch and Barrett wasn't anywhere to be seen. So if he's not giving you anything in that particular spots, then just keep him on the bench. But there should be no way he comes off of the bench. That's
the argument. The argument that people have made is that, well, if he comes in with the second unit, he can kind of be the go-to guy with that unit.
But he hasn't shown he can do that either.
And not have to share the ball with Brunson and Randall as a starter, which he obviously now is third in the pecking order, which he was second last year. Now he's third in the pecking order, which again is definitely playing with his head. I don't care what anybody says. It's on his mind. You can see it. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm kind of there with you. I think you have to you just paid this guy to be a cornerstone of your franchise. You kind of have to ride with him and stick with him. And I mean, who knows? He could last year after the break, he was fantastic. So maybe he comes out and starts on Friday and just has this dominant stretch where he's scoring 25 a game every week, every day. And the thing for me is with him now, he's not getting those opportunities because we have, again, as good as he's been, Brunson likes to shoot the ball. Let's just be honest. Yeah. As good as he's been, because he's efficient and he hits at a high rate, so you can't really be mad at him doing that. But as good as he's been, he shoots the ball a ton. So, the guy who's lost attempts because of that is Barrett. And I honestly think that's also why he tries to get shots up when he is there.
He's not going to see the ball again.
Yeah, he's like, you know what? If I don't take the shot when I have it, I might not get it back. So, Ty, we talked about the Barrett thing last week. Do you even think it's something that's being considered? We didn't really say that. We just kind of gave our perspective. Do you think it's something that Tibbs is thinking about, or?
I don't think it's something. Well, I think he might consider it. I think he'd get fired if he did it. I think that's where we stand with. I mean, when you hear Tibbs talk about Josh Hart, I said he thinks he's Jimmy Butler. So. Essentially, most people thought that RJ was Jimmy Butler, to be very honest. That was the kind of the comparison people were trying to get in, minus the defense, but thinking that he could be that type of player. I think he would bench RJ if RJ's check was smaller. I think he's shown that he's willing to put guys in that Tom Thibodeau has to trust, and, all these other, little asterisks that goes next to players that he loves. He loves role players. He does not love superstars or guys
right.
We've seen that. I mean, it sounds like a joke when saying it, but he showed a great fondness for guys like Nate Robinson's, guys that, that are anomalies, that are maybe tough but they're limited. He likes limited talent. Jimmy Butler's a limited player. He's a great, he's a bucket. He's self-made. But he is a very limited player. Athletically, he's limited, and Tibbs loves those kind of guys. So, I get this eerie feeling RJ's getting moved in the offseason. That's really where my mind is at, because I think that he would be willing to sacrifice RJ to have a Josh Hart type. over an RJ type because he affects winning, as he says. Will he pull him? I think no. I don't think he's able to pull him. I don't think he could do that. Not with this. You just paid the guy. You just paid him a lot of money to have him come off the bench. The problem also is with Tibbs, which we've highlighted millions of times on the show, unfortunately, is that he's not creative enough to actually utilize an RJ. Like, would it be terrible to have RJ and Josh Hart run in the backcourt? It wouldn't be bad.
No.
Wouldn't be the worst case scenario. We've learned that RJ with one of the guys, whether it's Brunson or with Julius, plays actually really well. He doesn't play with all three. So herein lies an issue of balance, roster balance, and rotations. This is where the suffering comes. You don't know who is who. It would behoove you to actually put Grimes on the bench. Have Grimes come in with quickly. You got to light up City. That would be a great coming off the bench team when you think about it. But we're not going to do that because he's already solidified Grimes as being, the second coming of whoever, Allen Houston, Michael Jordan, whatever. So we can't move him. You moves him, and Emmanuel Quickly is, the new Derek Harper. Can't move him. So you have all these guys that, if you learn how to maybe maneuver them in the lineup and make them more interchangeable and run different sets for these guys, maybe you will. Going back to what you said about Quentin Grimes, and I love Quentin Grimes. I'm not knocking him, but it's like you saw what he could do when he's like in a fast-paced offense. In the Rising Stars, he was phenomenal. He lit up the sky. But we're not going to see that here. You're not going to see that guy. That guy's not going to. He's falling off. You want to keep it a buck? When the last time y'all saw Quentin Grimes, other than in uniform? You haven't seen him. You haven't seen his game. You haven't seen the guy that was knocking down shots and, greatly known for his new, his defense and what he was going to bring. And it's not that he can't bring that, but we're not seeing that no more because he too is probably a little bit burnt out. A little bit overused and maybe also a lot restricted because he's also waiting for Brunson to go, give me the ball. Can you give me the ball? Am I going to get a touch? These guys are getting touches later in the game when, the cheeks are starting to clamp. And now you're asking a second-year player to now suddenly hit the tougher shots and with no rhythm. Like you haven't been involved in the game enough to get your touches here and there. Brunson's a great acquisition. He might be the best free agent the Knicks have signed in a really long time. So I'm not knocking him as much as I'm knocking what he's not great at. I'm just saying I'm highlighting what he's not great at. He's not a great passer. He doesn't see the floor in a great way. If he did, then those guys like RJ, he'd be like, well, look, I can get my shot. This is what great players always do. I can get mine. Any point in the game, I'm going to get my shot. And nobody's going to stop me from getting it. But that dude over there can't get it. So I'm going to get him his shot. That's what great players do. They get better shots for people who can't get their own shot. And Brunson, in order to be a great superstar, if you want to ever get to that level, dog got to pass the ball and make guys better around him because you're not going to win. Come playoff time, they're going to know Julius, you can double. He can't pass. And Brunson, you put a long dude on him, you can limit him.
Can't get around him, yeah.
If you're not building up the confidence around you, this is going to be a short series if a team can play great defense. It's going to be over.
It's really been fascinating. It's been a fascinating season to watch the fan reaction to RJ Barrett's season when most people will tell you he's having a bad season.
He's not.
And statistically, he's really not. It's either on par or even slightly better than what he did previously. So that's kind of the weird thing when I see all this stuff come around him. And if they were to kind of make that decision, whether it's be to trade him in the offseason as part of a big package for a better player or, to bench him, to me, that's a failure of the coaching staff. Like you have this guy who was picked third. Obviously he's talented. He's got more of an older style game. He's not like the young athletic studs that we see in the league now, like a Ja or like a Zion. Yeah, he's not those guys. But the things that he does well, he does very well. And we haven't seen them either lean into that or develop it. I feel like any time that we've seen it, he took it upon himself to do it. Like, it's always been kind of a thing where, like, say the time last season when Tibbs kind of called him out, for doing whatever. And then he went on that tear where he was like scoring 25 a night because he was like, screw it. I just need to play my game and not worry about all this other crap that other people are telling me. Like, I don't feel like he's gotten that kind of coaching since he was drafted. Like, he's improved parts of his game. Yes. People will tell you he hasn't, but he has. There's certain things he does a lot better, but he's kind of been passed over because of this need for them to for the need now, especially this season, for like Thibodeau's like, I have to win this year. Like, you can't take the foot off the gas and continue to develop a guy. And we talked about this, like whether it's Barrett or whether it's Obi Toppin, like he's not willing to put in the time for the more talented guys. Like you said, quickly, yeah, he'll put in the time for him because he knows his limitations. And if I get him to play to the top of his level, he's going to be good for me. Like, he'll be good for me. But the players where you need to kind of nourish them and feed them and live with their mistakes and, live with they're not doing that. And that's what I say, whether it's Barrett, whether it's Obi, they're kind of, I feel like it's organizational malpractice that these guys aren't better in this point of their careers than they are. Of course, always some of it is personal responsibility. The players have to take responsibility as well. They're professionals. But when you're young, you need someone to show you that. Like, you need someone to show you the ropes. You need someone to kind of say, hey, you might have done that in college, in high school, what you did, and that's fine. But as a professional, these are the best of the best. You need to do it 10 times better. If you practice 10 times harder. And Barrett probably does because he's just that type of guy. But I feel like this has to be a point of emphasis. And because the Knicks have had to shift gears from, yes, we're drafting and we're going to build the draft, to, oh, crap, Julius Randle has a great season, we pivot. I feel like that's been kind of left in the dark. And we're seeing it. And that's why I think we're getting these fan reactions. They're like, RJ Barrett averaged 20 a game last year. Why isn't he averaging 25 this year? And I'm like, well, they just brought in a guy who's taking like 18 shots a game as your point guard. So not only does he have the ball all the time, he's taking the shots.
He's shooting them.
Right? So, I mean, I don't really care what fans think. Like, in my head, I know I'm watching this game long enough to know that what I see and I can pinpoint the problems that I see on the court, and I know, okay, they need to do that better, or that's something they need to focus on or change. So I don't worry about that. Fans just see, crap, he turned the ball over, or he made a mistake, or he shot 6 for 21, and I'm like, go look back at some of the greatest players in the league. They have plenty of 6 for 21 nights. Like, there's just certain things that you're not looking at it from the right perspective. You're looking at it from now. Knicks fans want to make the playoffs, so any bad performance is affecting that. Whereas the point really should be to develop these guys.
I think it's a
long-winded way of saying that.
I think it's narrative too. I mean, we no matter what we look at RJ, a guy like RJ, a guy like Grimes, but we were just going to do RJ. The Knicks did him a disservice. Let's just keep it right where it is. We can talk about what the kid is not great at, but let's talk about what this organization is not great at. It's not been great at, first and foremost, developing players, making them into something more than what they came in as. That's the first thing. The second thing is they did him no favors with this Donovan Mitchell thing. The Donovan Mitchell thing, whether we were getting him or not getting him, was arguably the most botched thing with the information that was leaked. So you fed the fan base, and it's not good for Donovan Mitchell too, because they all played a bad part into making RJ look like a piece of whatever at the end of this. Man's name is mentioned in trade rumors that he's going along with 50 Ducks and 40 airplanes to Utah, get rid of this guy. We're willing to trade him and the farm to get Donovan Mitchell. You hear that first narrative. Now the expectations are coming back now that, we didn't get him, but we've got RJ Barrett. That's basically what it is. We didn't get – he's a consolation prize now. So, throwing him out to the wolves. Now, if he doesn't play up to what his standard is or what they believe is a new standard for him, which is now he has to be Donovan Mitchell level, instead of saying maybe he just might be an improved RJ Barrett level, because that's what we're seeing is an improved RJ Barrett level who's been flawed. We know he has flaws. Every NBA player has flaws. Let's just keep it a buck. There's not one NBA player right now that I can tell you who's a great, well-rounded player in all aspects of the game. I wish someone would name it to me because there's not a player like that. There's so many flawed guys that are called superstars are flawed nowadays. So we get to RJ Barrett, guys are expecting him to now be this superstar. So they're looking at what Julius Randle's doing. He'll look at Julius is putting up great numbers. He's an all-star. Yeah, he gets to do what he wants with the ball too. And he's a little bit more talented than RJ in certain aspects of his offensive game. We move on to Jalen Brunson. He gets the ball. He gets to do what he wants with the ball. He's also improved. But what people don't look at is if you had a Brunson and you had a Julius Randle at 22, they'd be looking like RJ because they were coming off the bench. They weren't as good as RJ is now. That's the thing that kind of unfortunately has fell in RJ's lap. He's playing in the Mecca first and foremost. Now it's like we didn't get Donovan Mitchell and this guy's a bust. What RJ's turning over the ball. They should say, he's trying. Can we keep using the 22-year-old mark? Well, he is 22. There's a lot of players that sucked at 22 too. Let's keep it a buck. You don't reach your peak until you're almost like 26, 27 in this league.
Usually, yep.
It's not like it's not an overnight success because even as good as a guy like Zion is great. Yeah, he's a young, great talent, but he can't stay away from the buffet line or buffet, if you want to say it in French. He can't stay off the buffet line. So we're talking about flaws, right?
That's a question.
We can go to John Morant. John Morant can't shoot from 3-point range.
He's improved, but yeah, he's still not good at it.
He's not great, and he's not great, traveling behind the Pacers bus. You want to talk about flaws? Do we want to talk about flaws? Just get off of Batman Barrett's back and realize that if you circle the league, Giannis cannot hit free throws. He cannot hit a jumper still. LeBron can't take off the bounce. I mean, we can go on a list of flawed players that are not named RJ Barrett that are considered superstars in this league. The most complete guy right now might be Jason Tatum. When watching his game develop, he can do it probably on the next end. He needs to work on his defense probably to elevate to that level. But there's not a player in the league that doesn't need extra work.
Kevin Durant. He's the only one that can.
Durant is probably, you're right. The only pushback probably is Kevin Durant as being the elite talent. One thing he messes up is his social, his burn.
Right. His off the court stuff.
His off the court stuff is his worst trait. But when we're talking about a fundamental basketball savant, Kevin Durant, after Durant, there is no player that I can recall. I'm going down the list in my mind mentally because even Kyrie, he lacks defense. He's not a great defender.
It's true.
Durant can be on both. He can be a two-way player.
Yeah.
He can be a two-way player. You might want to throw Kawhi in there if he ever plays. I don't know if he plays basketball anymore. We can't even go with him. We don't even know what that dude is doing. He just making what's that sneaker New Balance commercials? That dude ain't doing nothing. We don't know what he's doing.
Jack Harlow, yeah.
Jack Harlow, him hanging out. Somebody can't jump, whatever they're doing. You got to look at that aspect of those. There's not a player in the league that has any Jordan-esque quality or Kobe-esque qualities where you look at them and like their whole game is like just ridiculous. You don't have that kind of player. There's not nobody, so don't get on RJ Barrett because he's playing in New York. You're like, he's on a discounted amount with the Knicks. People go, he's got the poison pill. Yeah, but he's only making $75 million. He's not even getting a max deal.
He's not.
He's getting high role player money. That's what he's getting.
Yeah, without the incentives. If he
he's not going to hit those incentives.
Not this year.
Yeah, he's probably never going to hit those incentives. Some of those, he might make an all-star. Oh, maybe. But I'm just saying.
If he gets the ball, that goes back to the fact of getting the ball.
Yeah, it's like he's not in this team. He's not going to get those kind of touches. Not with these guys. So that's what I'm saying. Like this is the guy who's now your third option, who's averaging 19, 20 points a game.
20.
Is that the worst third option you've ever heard?
No.
So you're asking him. You're talking about defense. None of the Knicks play great defense. They suck. That's why you give up that many threes every game. You give up a lot of threes.
The scheme, yes.
Because your defense sucks. It's not RJ Barrett issue. Yeah, what you do is you watch RJ get blown by because he's stiff. Yeah, he's stiff. He doesn't have great lateral quickness. We know these things about RJ, so his blunders look bad. But check out Jalen Brunson getting burned too.
Dude,
He gets burned.
I've said it.
Bronze gets burned. Come on.
I've said it about Brunson all year. Like, you could say what you want about RJ, but to me, at least he gives the effort and he tries. Sometimes Brunson to me doesn't even try. Like, and we know Randall. If the guy is 5 feet, if he's at the 3-point line and Randall's more than 5 feet away, he's not contesting. He just turns around. Runs to the basket.
I'll get to that later. I got to go talk to the ref.
It's so true. Yeah, it's true. Like, but again, like you said, because of the Mitchell thing, because of Donovan Mitchell, and that's what they see now. And Nick Fancy, RJ Barrett, they see Donovan Mitchell, and he's not Donovan Mitchell, and that's the problem. So it's going to be. I don't know if they'll bench him, but it's going to be interesting to see his minutes as the season progresses. That's really what we're going to be watching, because we've already seen Hart, like Craig said before. We've already seen Hart kind of take away some of his fourth quarter minutes, especially down the stretch.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, if that stuff continues to happen, I think it's going to be problematic going down the stretch with him, because he's already kind of acted out a little bit, which is what we've never seen from him before. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. All right. The other things that are going to be interesting to see is the rest of the NBA this season. And let's talk about what we saw in the first half of the season. So a lot of cool things happened. And let's start with, I guess, the big record that was, I guess, broken, or I don't care what you want to say it. The compilation stat of LeBron James becoming the NBA scoring champion. Kind of a crazy player in my head to think that he would get that. I mean, he's been in the NBA since he's 18 years old, 20 seasons, 21 seasons.
Mm-hmm.
Makes a lot of sense. He's not known as a scorer, really.
Yeah.
But he can score, obviously. He's always been up there. So, I mean, it's a great accomplishment. I'm not going to take it away from him. You can't.
No.
And as much as we kind of get on him for a lot of the things he can't do, he's been really good for the game. He's been a great ambassador for the NBA. All the things off the court, humanitarian, all that good stuff that goes with LeBron. So it's a good guy, I guess, to have that. It's just kind of weird when you look at his career that he's the guy now who's the scoring leader in the NBA. Craig, you hate him more than anybody. Go ahead, talk about LeBron. Try and spin it nicely.
No, I just think that.
What did you think of the scoring champion?
I didn't watch
champion.
I didn't watch the game. I didn't care about it. I cannot stand how the league tried to, not the league, but they're trying to compare that picture to Jordan's last shot. And I think it's easy to get that title when you played for as long as you played. And is it fair to say 50 to 60% of your field goals or points are coming from the painted area? Because for a long period of time, without being a big man, like a legitimate center or power forward, where if you look at the list, right, I mean, there was only 2 guards on that list, right? That's where your points come. Like, your whole game was you were a basketball version of Dante Culpepper, right? You literally would get the ball, just go inline to baseline, or is it inline to inline, right? Or right?
End zone to end zone.
Yeah, you're going from one side, from the back court. I mean, from this side of the court to your side, and it's just layups or dunks. Now, I'm not saying he hasn't become somewhat of an improved shooter, but he's still not a great jump shooter. So if all your points, for the most of your majority of your points are coming from just being a dunker and a slasher and a rim or heading to the basket, of course it's going to be easy for you to get to 30. I know it's such a small thing to harp on, but I've always said, in order for you to be considered the greatest player or one of the greatest, you have to do everything exceptionally well. And the one thing we've known LeBron not to be or do exceptionally well is be a consistent jump shooter. So again, I know I'm nitpicking, and I can't take it away from him, but all those things will kind of stack in your favor to be able to do that, right? If you look at the first half of his career, he was the man. Okay, there's points there. Then the next part of your career, you're playing with Bosh and Wade. They were so good, they opened up the floor for you. There's some points there. Now, of course, his scoring went down a bit, right? But then you go to Cleveland, you got Love and Kyrie. They're so good, they open up the floor for you to kind of get what you want. And then you just kind of, from going forward, you're just kind of just, I don't want to say padding stats, but you're just kind of accumulating those points, right? I mean, there's nothing I can say that he does exceptionally well overall. And I'm trying not to sound like a hater, but
Pass.
he passes very well. He's a very cerebral player. But I just look at it, I'm just like, it means nothing to me. You can
Right.
tell it means nothing to Kareem either. Because
Right.
it how can anyone, oh well, this solidifies it. He's now the GOAT. No, he's not. And then I'm sorry,
That's
one more thing. And for Chuck to take the easy road during the All-Star game, I did see that. I watched that live. Oh, you gotta compare errors. No, dude. You know what you want to say. You know you should be saying it. And you're saying that, oh, you can't you're putting players into errors. No, is he the greatest player or not? Just answer the question. And for them to say, well, he's got the scoring title now and he's top five and all his other statistics, he's going to be the greatest player ever. But context, nuance, all those things matter that get him to where he is right now. In a league where you can't touch anybody and you're allowed to play zone defense now, and which I guess that kind of counters my argument because to be able to break the zone, you got to be able to be a jump shooter, which he's not. So I give up.
no his best seasons, probably his highest field goal percentage seasons were the seasons where he did have good shooters around him. I'm not basing that off of, anything I know. I'm just kind of speculating because, if when you have good shooters around you, you're right. The floor opens up, the middle of the floor opens up for you and it's easier. You have more driving lanes and things of that nature. But that's why I kind of said in the beginning, he's an odd player to have the scoring title because I don't look at him as a scorer, right? Like if Kevin Durant has the scoring title, you're like, well, yeah, that makes sense. Carmelo Anthony, Michael Jordan, those guys, yeah, that makes sense. Those guys are scorers. That's what they do. But, I agree with you, Craig. It's like a compiling thing for him. It's a compiler award. Like I said, 20 seasons, mostly healthy. Things like that. Didn't get hurt a lot. Didn't miss a lot of games except for his load management, which we're going to talk about in a little bit while too. So we'll get there too. But Ty, very quickly, you don't have to speak long about it. But
Sorry.
what did you when outside of the pomp and circumstance of the league being like, oh, he's the scoring title? Do you feel like he's weird, like I do? Like it's a weird guy to have that title?
I think it's weird and it's weird to a degree, but then when you look at the league and his longevity, it's less weird. Michael Jordan missed a couple of years, obviously, in between to play baseball, going his hiatus. We've often talked about if you were to put a scorer like a Michael Jordan or Dominique Wilkins or whoever from an era prior, you put them into this game right now and they're wired to be a scorer. And if they can last 20-something years, then they probably at least 10,000 more points than what LeBron has. So you're asking a guy who averaged probably 26 points over the last career. He's been in the league for 20 years, 20 plus years. It's really not an accident. He's the all-time leading scorer. It's just more so you're talking about a league that highlights scoring, that does not highlight defense, and you got a guy who's physically probably unstoppable going downhill for his whole career. Guys are not willing to take the charges. Guys are not willing to defend. There's also this air around him where guys, they kiss his you put Michael Jordan in here. How many points is that? What is the point leader? How many points did he come out with? 39,000. What was it? How many points he has?
LeBron currently?
Yeah. What was it? What was the scoring amount? The statistics.
Like
How many did he end up with?
He
he broke Kareem's. What was the record? I forgot what the record.
He has 38,411 points right now. LeBron does.
So you take a guy like Michael. Say you stretch out Michael's career, because this is the thing that people don't understand too when they talk about like LeBron's been playing since he was a teenager. Michael's 3 years in college. If you take Michael's 3 years in college and you add it to the NBA and let him play 3 more extra years, then he beyond kills, Wilt and Kareem. When you think about it, you do have the 3 college years. Michael Jordan's missing 5 years off of LeBron's longevity. That's what you got to look at it. 2 years retirement, 3 years in college. You bring Michael into that whole landscape and he plays 5 extra years on top of what he already did. Think about that. 5 extra years on top of what he's already done. You ask me where that scoring title, who has the scoring title at that point?
He's kicking himself right now.
When you look at the totality of LeBron's career, as much as we think of him as a passer, everyone scores a lot of points nowadays. There's not a guy. Julius Randle's averaging 20. We think Julius Randle's not that good, and look what Julius is averaging. Julius Randle's not a great scorer, but look at what he's averaging.
24.
Is Giannis a great scorer?
No.
That's all you got to ask yourself.
No.
The guy's averaging like 50 points in 3 games. He can't even shoot.
I agree with you. Like, it's a weird time, especially obviously the defensive rules were changed to make it easier to score. So yes, that's why they changed the rules after the 90s and early 2000s with the Knicks teams and the who played ugly basket, right? The Pacers, even the Bulls. You could throw the Bulls in there. They played physical defense too, especially with Rodman and guys like that. Pippen, of course, was a fantastic defensive player. So like you have the rules were changed to impact so that the game would be more fun to watch, right? That's what it was. They wanted to make it more fun to watch, score more points, makes sense. So all that's true. Like all that's true about LeBron. The era he compiled his stats in was easier, definitely. Even though people were like, no, check out those thick like clips, and I'm like, get the hell out of here. Like, I'm like, not everyone who played in that era were great defensive players, but the schemes, you are allowed to do certain things that you can't do now, that are illegal now. Like you could armbar a guy back then. You can't do that now. You could hand check a guy back then. You can't do that now. You could kind of the hand check back then, you could kind of put on a guy and kind of make him go the way you wanted him to go as a defender. Can't do that anymore. There's certain things that you physically can't do because they're fouls. So don't give me that argument. I hate that. With like, oh, you show me clips of guys. I'm like, of course, yeah, there were bad defensive players in every era. It doesn't mean that the rules were the same. So it's all true about him, but it's again like I don't view him as a scorer. I never have. I view LeBron James as a great overall basketball player. Maybe not defensively. He had years where he was great defensively. He hasn't been that player in a while, but there was a time there for like 4 or 5 years. He was one of the best defensive players in basketball. I can say that. Yeah. So like you have all of that encompassing with this guy, and he's a great player. It's just like when I say that LeBron James scoring like all-time NBA's all-time leading scorer, it just doesn't sound right. It's a very weird soundbite.
I think it's weird. It's about as weird when you think about it in this context. It's a different context in a smaller scale. But it's like when you hear that Jason Kidd is one of the all-time three-point percentage shooters in NBA history in the playoffs. And when you hear that, you go, "This dude can shoot." But what did he do? He stayed around long enough. You're around long enough. You're going to improve in certain areas. So, it's like a droplet of water hitting on a rock. Eventually, it's going to make some sort of hole. And that's the same thing with LeBron, the consistency. If there's one thing that I don't want to speculate how he's maintained this level of play. We'll just leave it at that. But I'm saying we're going to just believe that he is as healthy and strong as an ox for these last 30-something plus years.
Let's believe it.
Let's believe it, because that's what we do. We play make believe around here. That he's able to maintain this. Then this is his just reward for being, a play of longevity. He's LeBron. What's the dude? The bicyclist, LeBron
Armstrong.
It's LeBron Armstrong. So we have LeBron Armstrong. He's been around for a minute. So. Kareem, I believe I did watch when Kareem's past Wilt. I mean, I'm that old, I guess, now. that get off my lawn person. Off the skyhook, he broke Kareem, Wilt's record. Well, Kareem was around for a long time. But when you talk about the greatest center, they may not even can put him in that category. To me, he might be one of the GOATs that nobody talk enough about. But it's a contribution to what he's done in the league for such a long time. He had a lot of points. He's won championships. So it's not by accident if you can stay around long enough. Robert Parrish was like almost 80 years old, still hooping at one point. The dude looked like he never was going to leave the game. Never going. It's like AC Green. His longevity record. It's never going to be broken. Not because AC was a great player. He just stayed around with his jerry curl and he went to a high top. He just went through all these transformations, and then it's like, oh, AC never got injured. All right, well, that's fine. But it's because he stayed around long enough. Everything lasts if it stays around long enough.
Yeah. So it's kind of it's kind of a crazy thing, and I'm trying not to. I've never loved his game, so I'm trying not to harp on that part of it. I agree with everything Craig said. He never really focused on becoming a better shooter. He kind of just played into what his physical size allowed him to be. And okay, that's great. Congratulations. It worked for him. And Giannis is doing the same thing now. So it's kind of like a repeat of that. But hey, congratulations, LeBron James. What are you going to say? Like, that's whatever, however you want to put it. He is the all-time leading scorer in the NBA. Can't change it. It was done legitimately, we think. Like we said, we don't know. There have been rumblings about substances he might have used. We don't know. Nothing's been proven. But if he did it legitimately, then you can't really take it away from him. But one thing, there's one thing that he started doing years ago, and he actually changed his mind and has been playing because he got pressured for it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm talking about load management. Now I see both sides of the argument. I really do.
Yeah.
I understand that it keeps guys fresher, and if the playoffs is the thing, you want your guys fresh for the playoffs. If you can take mileage off of them during the regular season and your team is still winning, then what's the harm, right? Like, what's the harm? The bad part of it is I'm Joe NBA fan. I put down for Knicks tickets. Some Knicks tickets start at like $90 up in the 400s. So yes. I put my $90 to watch from 417 at the Garden, and I want to see the Lakers and LeBron James and Anthony Davis, and they're both out for load management. They're not playing tonight. Mm-hmm. And so I'm out $90. Yeah, I'm going to see the Knicks, but I picked the Lakers because of those guys. I want to see them, and now I'm not seeing them. So I understand the argument. So I guess my question for both of you guys, either one of you could jump at it, is what is your take on good versus bad? Do you think it's a good thing or a bad thing?
Who wants to take it? You want to
either one?
I think it's the worst thing in the planet. And the reason being is that I've watched this game for so many years, and this has got to be the most ussified thing I've seen in sports. That's a good way of putting it. They won't cancel me on that one. Ussified thing I've ever seen in sports, namely because I'm really an old school dude in a lot of ways. I watched my father get up and never complain, going to work so many hours. Yeah. And I'm just cut from a different cloth. If you lived in this house of mine, you would hear me never complain about getting up and going to work. I just don't do it. It's not in my DNA to complain or moan about stuff. Even I can have the greatest pain in the world, and you would never even hear me say a word about it, nor would I mistreat somebody while being in pain. You would have to see me limping, and then if you asked me what it was, I'd say even if it was on a 10, I'm probably going to tell you it's a 2, because I'm like, I don't want to be sympathized with. I don't want somebody, cushioning me or changing my diaper. I don't need that. So I'm old school. I'm a real old school too. So I look at when you're making that kind of money, these guys are making now, and compare it to an era where guys were not making that kind of money and showing up to perform because they realized no matter what, they were so privileged, even if they were not getting a gazillion dollars. They were privileged to be playing a sport for their livelihood. And to watch these guys kind of make these lame excuses, I often think back. One of the greatest stories I heard was Kevin McHale playing in the playoffs with a broke foot. See, I'm coming from that era of watching basketball, and the Pistons are playing him in the playoffs, and they're like, well, his foot's broke. So the Pistons said, well, we're going to step on it every time he goes up for a rebound, and we're going to jam our foot into it. You never heard Kevin McHale come after the game talk about, hey, look, you know what? Can you load manage me? Can you stop this? He's like, no. I get paid to play this game, and I want to win to the point. It goes back almost to the Ronnie Lott theory, cut my finger off. Do you want to go for surgery? No, cut it off. I'm not missing the game. I mean, think about how crazy. I mean, that's extreme, but cut my finger off because I don't want to miss the game. Now, I know, just think about that. And to know that these guys, you see some of the injuries, these guys walk around with broken parts. You saw a guy like Rondo. I'll never forget that year of Rondo. He was in Boston, and his elbow, and you saw the dang on thing look like Gumby. And he was like, no, put a sleeve on it. I'm going back out. And I think he still had a triple-double. See, when you start seeing Steve Nash's nose being like Mr. Potato Head, it was just about to pop off, it could pull out, or Allen Iverson getting an ass bruise. That's the only way you can really describe it. And going out and still getting 35 points a game. So when I hear guys talk about, ooh, my big toe, it's kind of hard for me to watch this, and then knowing that the tickets cost way too much. I don't care what arena. I know in New York they definitely cost $1.50 to get up in the game. Let alone, I don't know what these other venues cost. But needless to say, people are taking out their families. Usually they're going with their kids or, their loved ones or whatever, and they're trying to have these experiences, entertaining experience, because it's still entertainment at the end of the day.
Yes.
That's like showing up at a concert for the star performer, and he or she decides that they don't want to come out. They don't want to come out, and here, but instead we're going to put out, Tito and the boys. Tito's coming out. Tito and the Saxons, not the Jacksons. But you came to see Mariah Carey. I mean, come on. Who would not be a little PO'd about that? And I think it's the lack of awareness of these guys, the entitlement, I should say. I shouldn't say they lack awareness. They don't care. They don't care if you're not, because they're getting a check. If the NBA wants to incentivize guys, the NBA wanted to incentivize guys. The game, you have a certain amount of times that you can pull the load, or I'm sick. And treat it like school. Where's your doctor's note? So I want to see your doctor's note. And if you can't show up from work like most people can't, we're docking you that day. You're not getting paid that day. You want to incentivize them? Start taking away some of that dang money and say, you know what? You don't want to. These guys are cashing some serious checks.
Yeah.
And people tend to think they get that money all at once. That's not how it works. They're not getting the money all at once. They might just write off. Some of them have it in their clause where they get half their money up front. I think Ben Simmons had it, which is a tragedy when you think about that. But he was one of the guys that got his money. That's another insane story in the NBA. But to see a guy like these guys not show up, they have their paycheck to paycheck in a lot of ways. It's not our paycheck to paycheck. But it's still, start taking away the damn money. Start taking it away and say, hey, you don't want to show up? Or start giving the fans back these money. People are giving up their mortgages to go see games. Or flying overseas. I mean, thank God Jimmy Butler did the right thing by biting that fan back in Miami. But come on, how many of those stories went under the radar?
It's true.
At a game, and I mean, a little bit goes to Greg Popovich for pulling it. It's not just. It didn't just start with this generation. Pop was doing it, pulling his team, but nobody cared about the Spurs.
No.
Nobody cared.
Yeah, they'd have these phantom injuries. I remember that.
Yeah, it's like, no offense. I love Tim Duncan. He's one of the greatest players ever. He's on my Mount Rushmore in a lot of ways, but nobody came
Hangnail.
Nobody came to see Tim Duncan. He wasn't exciting. Nobody came to the Spurs with 1-0 loss. But needless to say, people care if it's a LeBron James or Kevin Durant or, or John Moran or whoever your favorite player is, or Zion Williams, who's just collecting buckets of money for no reason whatsoever. I mean, I don't know. Like I said, I'm old school. I think it's an ugly situation for the NBA. I think it's, the fans are different from me, because if they were a consumer like Tyrone A. Booker here, if they were this consumer, when you do me wrong, I don't come back. I'm not giving you a dime. I'm not giving you a second chance, because that's a lot of money for you to tell me go screw myself, and then go buy popcorn. Think about that. Go screw yourself and go buy popcorn, because
That's true. Yeah.
feel like coming and showing up today. See, I'm one of those consumers. You can never do that too, because one, I'm going to write your business, and then I'm going to tell you, then I'm going to tell everybody and their mama how terrible you are, and I'll never show up ever again. And I'll keep talking about it in every conversation I do. Hey, that fool down he got that terrible business. I'm going to keep talking bad about it. So it's a disservice to the fan base that are supporting at the end of the day. That's the thing that ticks me off. You want to get me angry about it? They act like they're paying their checks. It's the fans that are paying all this money that allow you the lifestyle you have.
Yeah.
This is not the corporation. They every time that you go through that turnstile, or you buy one of these, or got a blanket draped over your couch like I got back here, we're paying those dudes' salary. Are you serious? It's not the owners. It's fan base. It's merchandise. It's buying video games with their likeness. It's us. I think it's very sad.
I agree. I mean, I'm with you on that. But Craig, as the parent of the three of us, you're the one guy who has kids. Does this kind of thing deter you from taking your kids to a game? Would you knowing that it's out there? Like, you don't always know when the guys aren't going to be available. So do you think twice, oh crap, they have load management, maybe I shouldn't buy tickets to the game?
Honestly, I haven't even thought about it, because the last game I went to, it was Melo's last game in the Garden, and he played. So
Right.
it was 2015, maybe.
Well, now I guess I just put it to you as a new question.
So now it would be something to consider. Yeah, for me, if I went to a Knicks game, I wouldn't care if none of the stars were playing, because
Right.
I care that much about the Knicks. That just guarantees me that the Knicks might win that game. So
Right.
no, I probably wouldn't do it. Luckily enough, right now, neither one is too young to understand basketball. The other one knows, but just doesn't care. So don't have to worry about it.
Right.
But I'll keep it short. Make with 3 points. As much as we hate people, as much as people don't like Julius Randle, he doesn't load manage.
That's true.
I'll give him that.
Yeah.
I think he probably learned that from Kobe. But
Right.
rest in peace, Kobe.
Yeah.
2, there should be a 5-game limit for load management, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And then the NBA should probably try to adopt what the NFL does, with having the teams responsible to have not just your team doctor there, but a league doctor, right? So you have to pay for an independent doctor to be there that game, something to can kind of diagnose if you could be playing or not.
Right.
That's how you fix that, in my opinion. Now, you can always fix a back injury. Oh, my back. No one can really, right? Trust me. I worked in a profession where all you had to say is your back was hurting and you were out of work, right? So, but those are my 2 quick fixes. I'm sorry, 3. You got 5-game limit, and anytime after that 5 games, you start getting game checks taken from you, at least percentage of your game checks taken, and then you have a outside of your team doctor at the game, or before, right before the start of the game, or check in that day or something like that. But other than that, I mean, I don't care. I care, but they're going to do it until the league puts a stop to it. And if you allow these players to do what they want, this is what you get.
Yeah, I think for me, it is something I think about now that I never thought about before. When I was younger, I never thought, oh, this guy might not play in this game. If he got hurt, if he legitimately gets hurt, you legitimately get hurt. There's nothing you can do about that. Injuries happen in sports. But I mean, to say that I bought a ticket, the NBA season, the tickets the schedule gets announced, August usually? Yeah. Right? Mm-hmm. So to say you buy a ticket for a game in August, for a game in, say now in January or February, and time comes and the guy, you're like, oh, he's in load management, he's not going to play. That's freaking that pisses me off. That would piss me off. Like crap, I picked that game because I wanted to see my Knicks play the Clippers.
Yeah.
Say Kawhi Leonard. I want to see Kawhi Leonard, and now he's not playing. Like that would piss me off. So I do think I think the if the players has load management, that fans, if they want to, should be able to get their money back. So I want my money back for this ticket. You know, I understand. I'm going to a Knicks game. You're right. Oh well, we're the Knicks. I don't care.
It's going to take somebody to like. I'm not trying to be dramatic. You saw what with Taylor Swift and Live Nation, whatever it was, or Ticketmaster, whatever. Yeah. So at some point, someone's going to take this to Congress and say you have to. I mean, I know that sounds overly dramatic because I still think that what they did with Taylor Swift was just ridiculous to go take this to Congress. A lot more important things you're dealing with. But what would stop someone saying, hey, you know what? You're essentially monopolizing fans' money and time. And you don't care.
There's a lot of claims you could make. You could say false advertising.
Yeah.
You know, you're telling me that these players for this other team are going to be there, and then it comes. And again, if they're legitimately hurt, that's one thing. But if they're just deciding, I don't want to play that night, I mean, you know, it's not like at a normal job you have sick time or PTO or whatever. It's not the same thing.
Yeah.
Like, you know, these guys get off. They don't work. They don't play every day of the week, right? Like, it's not like they're playing like we all who have a job 5 days a week, 6 days a week, whatever your job is. They don't have that. They play 3-4 times a week, and that's about it. So I don't know. I don't know if there's no easy answer here because all this stuff, as we know, has to be collectively bargained, right? Like that's what these leagues are. They have players unions and they collectively bargain for these parameters. So I don't know the fix here. It's a very, very tough thing. And like I said, I do understand it from a strategic standpoint, having your guys fresh come for the playoffs. I get it. That makes perfect sense to me. If I was a coach, I would understand the logic or ahead of a team, but like, yeah, you know, this guy has injury troubles. Like if the Lakers did that with Anthony Davis, it would make total sense to me because he's always getting hurt. Yeah. So like you want to protect your asset and have him ready for the playoffs. I understand it. But again, as a fan, and we're all fans of the sport, like if we want to go watch these games and we're paying our hard-earned money to go see it, I want full teams to be there. I want to see a good competitive matchup. And that's kind of where therein lies the rub. Like, how is the league going to jump on top of this and collectively bargain with the players and say, like Craig, I think that's a great idea. You have 5 games, like you have 5 PTO days basically, where you could take and you don't have to play. And then anything after that, you lose a game check, or you can take off the day, but you're not getting paid. I think that's the only way it would work because then you're hitting them in the pocket, and that's the only thing that seems to make sense to these guys. So. But it's something I think that will come up. I believe they're talking about. I believe I've heard rumblings that it's something they're going to talk about with the next CBA negotiations. So who knows? We might get an answer there sooner than later. But it's a fascinating topic, I think, for to discuss from a competitive side and then from the fan side. I think it's a fascinating topic, and maybe who knows? Maybe I'll try and get someone on who understands this stuff and. We can ask them questions about the business side of basketball because that's something that fascinates me on a whole other level. I don't know if it does you guys, like collective bargaining agreement discussions and negotiations. I've in my career in life, I've negotiated contracts before, so I can only imagine it's a little bit similar to that. But it's going to be interesting to see how this unfolds going forward. So we'll see. If anything, maybe we'll discuss this one time again, and we can have an in-depth discussion on with people who know more than we do about who are close to the situation, and we could talk about that then at that time. All right. So I think we're gonna close it down, shut down the show. Unless you guys have any closing thoughts.
Theraflu, worth every penny.
About anything. Theraflu. Shout out to Theraflu. Maybe we can get them as our sponsor.
Yeah, they need to become sponsor.
It'd be kind of cool. But if not, Craig, I'll let you sign off first. Tell people where they can reach you. And
you can find me on Twitter at Trays_Sun28. I'm there whenever I need to escape.
Are your notifications on? That's the question. Are the notifications on
For who and what?
for your Twitter account?
If you
Yes.
open
That
up,
way, if someone were to reach out to you, you get a notification.
Yes, I get it. Yes, I'm sorry.
All
I'm
right,
still.
notifications are on. That's the thing.
I'm old
And as you-
here. But I still got my. Yeah, I know that. I got
have
my.
you opened up the gates of hell? Is what he's asking.
You guys can
Oh,
see on the screen, Craig's information is right there on the screen as well. So if you have any questions about the spelling or anything, it's right there on the screen. Ty, you're up.
You can find me at Genius Scribble on Twitter. You can also find me on our Knicked Up, all Knicked Up. I'll get it right. I'm getting a little Facebook page where we try to engage with you guys. I'm going to put out some more articles, some more topics. Let's get a little conversation going. Hopefully, we can bring on a guest or two. We're working on that, as I said. Working on some of that. So we'll see. We'll see where we can get with that.
Yes. All right. And as you guys can see, right, I always get this wrong. Right here, there's my information. Right. Okay. Name, Twitter account at finally33, spell finale 33. If the show's account is at all_Knicked_up. You can, if you want to tweet the show, I monitor that. I actually have to get you guys on it so you guys can see it as well. And I'll tweet out from there as well sometimes during the game. Sometimes from that account, I will have conversations with other bloggers and people in the space to try and just bring awareness to the show and everything going on. So I'm trying to work that angle as well. But if again, at all_Knicked_up, just like the show name on Twitter, if you guys want to interact with the show. If you are into pop culture and fandom, if you want to check out my podcast, Straight Outta Gotham, it's at straight_O_G. Me and my co-host Pete, every week we do a podcast where we talk about what's going on in the world of entertainment. Heavily focused usually on the comic book movie genre, comic books, but we also do horror, and we have horror. Like we're doing a big show on Scream coming up, the new Scream movie, so that'll be fun to do. And every once in a while we throw sports in. We just did a Super Bowl show right before the Super Bowl, so we have that as well. It's a little bit different than a lot of the other pop culture fandom podcasts out there. We try and give it a New York talk show flavor on that Straight Outta Gotham, so you can check us out over there. As Ty mentioned, interact with us on Facebook. We have a Facebook group for All Knicked Up. Go over there. Ty's been posting up some really good articles. We've had a little bit of traction on a couple of them, so it'd be really good to have more people listening to us and then chatting with us over there. Again, I feel like a lot of the and I not being saying this to be disrespectful. I feel like a lot of the Knicks groups out there that I read are garbage. So I'm trying to bring a little bit of a sane sanity talk back to the. I'm trying to bring a little sanity talk back to the Facebook group. So you guys want to interact and have some adult conversations about the Knicks, definitely come over to us, and we'd love to do that. Next week we will be here again. I'm not sure if the Knicks are playing next week again, but if they are, we will be on after the final buzzer. So we'll come on after the final buzzer. But if not, as we're every week, we're here at 9:00 every Wednesday. And again, doing what we do, discussing this team and sometimes the league, like we did today. We discussed the league a little bit. So we do this every week. So if you guys are enjoying the show, come back, join us again. And we love having a good time with everybody. So for Ty and Craig, I'm Eric. You are watching All Knicked Up, and we'll see you next time.